compared to Minsk in 2014. So when this ends, it has to be lasting, it has to be durable. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin should never ever try again to attack Ukraine, and the Norwegian contribution here, and again I repeat the number, 7 billion euros. This is an enormous amount of money compared to other countries, but also as a sum in itself. I really commend you for that.
The next question comes from the daily newspaper Dagbladet.
Hi. It's a little it's a little question about the Norwegian who used to have your job. In what way will you continue on Jens Stoltenberg's work as a leader of NATO, and in what way will you play his role differently?
Well, I'm filling very big shoes. He is an exceptional leader. I already thought he was when I was watching him leading NATO, and then I had the extraordinary honor of taking his place as Secretary-General. But of course, when you then enter office, you start to talk to people, and you start to realize, learning from the inside, what he did, for example, when 2022, the Ukraine war, when the full Russian onslaught on Ukraine started. He had to bring NATO together, sketch out the best way NATO could support Ukraine without becoming party to the conflict. This led to the setup of the command in Wiesbaden. This led to the joint training efforts, making sure that when all this military support for Ukraine is gathered from allies, that we deliver it to Ukraine in the best possible way. But also when it came to the accession of Finland and Sweden. And you have seen that, because the Swedish accession was not easy. There is even now a beautiful documentary which is largely focusing on that part of his work. And then you see an exceptional leader, an exceptional diplomat, somebody who can also laugh, who has an ego which is manageable. So I really love the guy, and I really have a lot of respect for him. So I can only try to fill those shoes, try to take forward the work he started, including what Jonas was just telling, the Prime Minister, that we in the past would say, let's spend 2% on defense. Why 2%? Now we say we need to spend much more than 2% because we know which targets we have to achieve, which gaps we have to fill, and this is also a whole process which Jens Stoltenberg designed. So, yes, we are all better off because of his leadership.
And the next question comes from the daily newspaper Fremover.
Secretary-General, I expect you are going to take a flyby over Narvik in a while. Yes. The port of Narvik is referred to as Finland's most important port in the event of crisis or war. What expectations or demands do you have NATO have to Norway in relation to preparing support for Finland and Sweden of military equipment?
Well, of course there is, but maybe the Prime Minister can talk a little bit more about this, but there is a close cooperation between the countries in this part of NATO. We know that Finland will host a forward land force, so that will be the 9th, next to the 8 we already had in Poland and the 3 Baltic countries, but also Romania and Bulgaria and Slovakia and Hungary. And that is important. And there is a close cooperation between all the countries here. But maybe...
Norway, Sweden and Finland, we have a lot of north-south infrastructure. And with this integration of all being in NATO, we need more east-west. So obviously one of the major lines here is Narvik, Sweden, Finland, with the railroad. So this is, I think, fairly realistic to see that that would be one of the key areas to develop that east-west scenario. In the past, we were thinking about allied reinforcements coming into Norway, and if we are going to assist Sweden and Finland, it means help is going to come through Norway. So this is now a task for our military commanders to work on integration, and Gahr has developed his regional plans, taking into account that we are all 3 countries member of NATO. And Narvik region, that's why we are here with the Secretary-General. We could have taken in many places, but this is really a key area, combining our capacities, but also this issue of allied reinforcement.
Thank you.
The next question comes from Harstad Tidende.
Hi, Secretary-General. How can local communities, such as those near Evenes and Ramsund, for example Harstad, benefit from NATO's increased presence beyond the military aspect, you think?
Well, there is a two-way street here. I think, one, but this is what Norway is already doing. I know that all your local communities are working on how you can all play your part when it comes to defending the country, be it natural disasters, other disasters, even if it is a war situation. And I can tell you, coming from the Netherlands, we can learn a lot from what Norway is doing. Because in many other countries we are not at that a sophisticated level of a whole of society approach your country has. And then, of course, when it comes to defense investments and spending, of course, there is a direct impact on the local community if there is a base and if Norway and together with NATO we are investing. But there's also an enormous impact on the defense industrial base. Norway has an impressive defense industrial base. This is one of the reasons why I'm constantly pleading with the EU to make sure that when the EU designs new policies, when it comes to defense spending, that they will make sure that Norway and the United Kingdom and Turkey, big NATO partners with big defense industrial base, that they are as much as possible connected to what the European Union is doing. But there will be a direct impact on the country when you spend more on defense. The defense dividend will also largely come back to the country itself. And of course this is not the main reason to spend more. You have to spend more to make sure you can fill the gaps and reach the targets. And make sure that when it comes to long-range missiles, maneuverable land formations, command and control systems, air defense systems, all these things we are lacking. And we have to spend a lot to make sure that we fill those gaps to stay safe not only now but also in 5 to 10 years. But there will be an absolute impact also on the national economies, particularly if you have a strong defense industrial base like Norway.
Thank you. The next question comes from Forsvarets Forum.
Hello, Secretary-General. Based on what you've seen today, what's your impression of the Norwegian armed forces?
I am absolutely impressed. And we were just sitting in that in the car, driving us to the spot where we did the exercise, and I said to the guy driving the car, I'm really impressed with the Norwegian Armed Forces. You really have the best, and the hospitality here, the fact that you have so many men and women in uniform serving this proud nation, it is really impressive. I think you can be very proud.
And the last question today comes from High North News.
Hello, Secretary-General. What has been the most important input you have received so far during this visit, and to what extent will the High North and the Arctic be discussed at NATO's upcoming summit?
For me, what I found really revealing when we had our secret briefings this morning, so I cannot tell you, of course, from those briefings, but when you, again, look at the map, not from the perspective as we would usually look at the map of the world, and particularly of NATO territory, but when you look at the map from the position of the North Pole, and then you take that perspective, and you see how close all these regions are interconnected, that we have 8 countries bordering there, 7 in NATO and 1 being Russia outside NATO, knowing that Russia is working closely together with China. That in itself, to have that change of perspective, to be here, to really sense and feel and speak with the people working on all these issues, is in itself a reminder of the importance of this issue, but it's also very inspiring to continue working on this. In the NATO summit in The Hague will be very focused on spending, on production, on Ukraine. So I'm not sure that we will go in every detail of every aspect, but I can assure you that you have an excellent ambassador to NATO. She and the other 31 ambassadors will continue taking this forward, this issue of the High North, in the coming weeks and months, because together with the 7 countries and NATO we have to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.